Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name's Michael. I'm from Professional Advantage, and I'll be your host this afternoon. Welcome to our Advanced Reporting and Analytics webinar with our Dynamics GP Smart Insights tool. I'm sure you'll agree by the end of today's session that we've really done some great work here in providing a Smart Insight tool that connects your GP data in a way that you may never have seen it before. So before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping things to announce. Firstly, we will be happily able to answer some questions at the end of the session today. And in doing that, you can ask questions inside your GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So as we're going through the session today, if you'd like to type in your questions into the questions box, we will get to those at the end of the session. Anything that we don't answer, we can follow up for you following the session, and we will send through some follow-up information at the end of the session today. You can, of course, take as many notes as you like, but don't worry, you don't have to take screenshots of everything that you see. We will record the session for you today, and that will be uploaded onto our PA YouTube channel. So you'll be able to either re-watch yourself or send that link around to someone else in your organisation that you may think would be interested in something that you've seen today. So on that note, we've developed a tool that we call SmarthInsight. So it works with Dynamics GP, and the concept behind it is to bring data nicely from your Dynamics GP solution into a dashboard tool, and you will actually see that today. So Graham will actually take us through a presentation of the tool today. Now, the concept behind it is to have customizable KPI dashboards for almost any business area, but certainly the key business areas within your organisation. And we've used our knowledge of the GP solution to bring that data through into the dashboards for you. Technically, clearly instant access to that data very quickly. So using not so much a reporting tool where you sit and run a report and then have to wait for that to run and then have to change that report and then rerun it again to see it. You see the way we navigate through the quick tool and presents that data in a way that you, as I said, may never have seen it before. You'll note that we mention here anything across sales, whether it's the analytics across actual sales, gross margin performance, etc., including fixed assets information that can be brought through into the Click tool. So it's not limited in any way to any of the data that is in your GP solution. We do have access to all of your GP data, and we can bring that through into a dashboard format. And lastly, and I do want to focus on that in terms of the financial statements. In terms of what we're presenting today, we do have an offer, and I'll save that as a teaser and mention the offer to you right at the end of the session today, specifically around financial reporting, and Graham will actually show us through that in the session today. And the ability to not only look at sales information within the dashboard tool, but to actually produce financial statements within this dashboard tool. Now, this for some people means great news in terms of historically using tools such as FRX or Management Reporter. So this presents another option for you from a financial reporting perspective in this particular tool. So on that, in terms of why Dynamics GP Smart Insight, that's a headline view. I'll now hand over to Graham, who will actually take us through the product and show you what it looks like using data that's actually coming straight from Dynamics GP. Thanks, Graham.
Hello, thank you very much, Michael. Okay, I'm going to show you the finance portion of the ClickView Smart Insight application that we've developed. I'm sitting here in the access point, which for me happens to be Internet Explorer, but it can be Safari or Chrome or Edge or whatever browser you're using. It's sitting on my, it could be sitting on my machine without any installation of any programs or so forth. I'm just pulling this data from the server in the web browser. Now, as Michael mentioned, we've got a number of areas that's covered in Smart Insight. So we've got the back-end bit, which is the pulls from our experience in GP, which pulls in for a debtors dashboard, purchase order processing, which hangs in with workplace and workplace routing, sales order processing, project accounting. But today we're going to look at the finance side of the app. So I'm just going to fire that off here, and I'm now into the actual browser, so I'm seeing data. I want to just show you a couple of things about the Click environment, and I will sort of through the presentation show you a few features of Click as well as the features that we've developed. So the standard sort of features, there's this grey, green and white look here. So what that is anything green is data that I've filtered down to. So in memory what happens is all the data's there in memory. As I can deselect the year, so I've got all years data associated. I click 2015 and April, so I'm looking at that period there, so I can flick backwards and forwards between the months. I might select a particular area, and if I select an area here, this is I'm calling business units, I can see it's associated with these various segments of the chart of accounts. This happens to be in this demo data, area number 2, segment number 1 and segment number 3 of the chart of accounts. This area here, the business unit, is a grouping that is not part of GP. So this is brought together in Excel. So that happens quite often, that you know, you've got some grouping that you know, based on the chart of accounts or so forth, that is not kept within Dynamics GP. But you know, as a starting point, we would bring that information in just from an Excel spreadsheet, and if you were later on wanted to migrate that, it would to SharePoint or somewhere more secure, that can very easily be done. But you know, if you're working through having a look at how your reporting would look, changing structures and the like, it's very good to utilize Excel to bring that data in together and quickly make some groupings that are outside your system. Over the years, we've actually pulled in even data from other systems and used them to consolidate. So let's say MyOb, I have one particular organisation which has about 50 companies acquiring them all the time, and they bring in from various other systems and CSV files and Excel and hooking into ICE and MyOb and Dynamics GP as well, and bringing it all together so it looks to the end user, the consumer of the data, very similar. Now, what we've got here is we've got a waterfall chart. This is pulling from, so I like for the first page to be quite visual. So what we're seeing here is a visualization of our budget. As part of this, you can select what budget you're going to use. You don't need to go through and sort of update it every year with budgets. They will automatically flow through. There's a drop down. You can select the budget ID that you're utilizing. We just happen to be calling it a forecast ID here. So what we have is the budget, and then we've got the variances to budget, the positive variances to budgets by certain departments, the negative variances to come at our actual. And these could be, I've just picked 5 areas, but very quickly we could add multiple areas, lines that we could have a look through and quickly flick over those and see different areas where we're coming through and seeing different versions of the profit and loss. We can also quickly see that as year-to-date information or rolling 12 months. And again, that's quite customizable. I'm working on one currently where we've got quarters, last quarter last year, and the like. So as I said, we can actually select from any area within here. So if I use my control key, I might want to select a number of different departments, and within there I can see the projects that are related to those projects. So I can actually, using my control key, select a number of projects that are utilised under there and see that. Now what you'll notice is the tabs up here all have a green LED sort of indicator on the top, which is telling you that I've made selections on this front tab, and they flow all the way through to all the other tabs. So while traditionally we in reporting we have selection criteria, you make your selections, you're stuck with what's built into the report selection criteria. Here anything is a selection criteria. So I'm going to, and that can actually sort of build and build and build. So we don't want to use up a load of our real estate showing all the selection criteria we've selected. So what we have here in the View toolbar in Internet Explorer, there's a number of fields here. As I said, I'll mention them as we go along. But for the moment, I'm going to look at the Selections button here, and I can see my selections here and seeing which business groups and segments. I can actually, from here, I can actually then go down and flick backwards and forwards if I like. That doesn't give the result I want. I can hit the back button. I can also hit the eraser within here and deselect those. And what I might want to do is I might want to actually select from within here. I can actually lasso that, or if I was in a touched environment, I could use my finger and touch on those areas. And that's why having this current selections here box is very useful, because it gives you a way of saying, well, where are all your selections? And it's quite good when you've got, say, I take hundreds of selections or the like. On that particular one, it's quite smart, and it tells me I've selected everything, but not those particular areas. So I'm going to deselect that again. As you notice, I can move that around, and what that does is it saves on the server where I personally want that current selections box to be. So other people will go in and they will see their current selections box where they want it to be. And that holds through for a number of features, like even the selections. If I was to hop out of here and then come back in, it's going to remember where I've left my current selections as far as month, year, and the rolling 12 months by default. That's not to say that you might want to have a trigger on here so that every time you came in, it selected the current month and year. That's a common one that people do actually request. You notice before I actually selected something and I lost focus. So I might, for example, select a whole load of areas. It might restrict down the projects, and I can see on the grey area projects that actually don't have any data on there, or don't have any data based on that selection. So if I select project 22, for example, what that has basically done is it said, well, we've got some data, but it wasn't in the April 2015 period. So if I hit the back button, I can go back and see where I was before, April 2015. If I went forward, I'm able to select project 22 and see where it's got some data, and then sort of find out some information about that. And I'll show you where we can see more detailed information about that a bit later on. But I might be focusing heavily on 2015 April, and I don't want to lose focus on that, and I might be only looking at these particular departments. So it's very easy with so much information there to select on to actually click on something and see the data that I haven't asked for, which is very powerful in itself. But I might say, okay, for now, I want to actually make sure I don't lose focus. So what I've done is I've now locked that, and I can go through here and select various different projects or areas within there. But if I now go back to that project 22 and try and select that, it's not going to allow me to select that because I've locked that field down. So yeah, I can quickly unlock that if I like. Go to my current selections, get rid of the business units, and now I'm looking at the total picture here. So that's the first tab, and this is just a visualization we put together to have a look at our information. Here's another version of this, I'm going to go to my second tab here, and whatever those selections are would flow through. Now, we're actually, as the years are going past, we're finding less is more, so we're using less and less of the real estate for repeating information and utilizing colors, etc. to highlight. So I think that's pretty obvious that we're looking in here, and I think it would be pretty obvious that green is good and red is bad. So we've gone away from sort of putting big variances and multiple columns and the like. So we've got a top area, so as well as working left to right to see more detail, we go top to bottom. So I can see the information there. If you can see, if I pick year to date or month to date, rolling 12 months, I get various bits of information. I might want to say, okay, let's have a look at this particular spike there. And again, I can select that information and go down to that. I can hit the back button, go back to where I was. I've put through some things here so we can sort of go through and have a look at the account categories. And they could be various different areas that we might want to scroll through and have a look at that information. Again, I can select on here, and that's a selection criteria to see that information. These particular items here, we've put those as buttons, so we can associate triggers to the buttons. So if I was to select just expenses, what that does, it now says, right, okay, I've now got this information here as expenses. I'm still seeing other areas here, but I've had a chart that pops up. So if I click on that again, deselect it, but I've said these particular charts here, that I only want this particular chart via business units to come up when I've selected a lower area. So this is just another way of looking at this area, just the same sort of data in a different visualization. Now, I mentioned about locking down the data on the first tab, but that particular data that we're actually looking at, there might be a number of areas that I look at that are under my control, and I might want to go in there and flick backwards and forwards each time I come in here and have a look at that information. So what I can do is I can add a bookmark and give that a name, and I can share it with other users, or I can just keep it for myself. And there's various other things that we can do about that. And what that does is it allows me to come back here, and I can see different bookmarks. So that's the one I created there, and this is one I created earlier for my particular projects. So that goes back to my particular projects, for example. Again, I can look back here and see what the selection criteria that has brought in, and I can clear those. So that's the bookmarks and the Finance Details tab. Now, I think we're looking at financials, but this is all pulling information from the general ledger. So we looked at pulling information from suppliers or vendors from the accounts payable, but that's quite limited. So we haven't gone down that path, but every AP and accounts receivable transaction hits the general ledger with its debtor or creditor ID as part of the transaction. So what we've done in here is pull that information through. We've put a little bit of a code so it excludes the debtor's control account, because obviously all debits and credits equal 0, so first off you'd get nothing, so we exclude the control account and the bank accounts, so that we just see the offset of the distributions here. So based on the distributions, we're able to see 12 months spend, or year-to-date spend, or month-to-date spend by particular creditors. These are just information I've just grabbed off of the web for company names and the like, so real dummy data in here. And again, I might want to select the 2 particular creditors, and I can then see what cost centres and projects they had on. And when we come down to the trial balance later on and have a look at that, that will basically give you all the detail related to this selection, which I'll show you a bit later on. If I can, as well as going to my current selections, you might have noticed I just selected on a particular creditor, select on them again. So if I select on that exact field, when it's highlighted or when it's selected, it actually works as a deselect. So it's quite flexible in how you want to navigate around. Going to go to debtor analysis, which is basically the same principle for debtors. So I won't spend too long on that side of things. But with the debtors, we can take that a bit further and utilise some specific sort of information to calculate debtors' days. So what we've done here is we've used the general ledger, pulled in sales information and some formulas, which often are specific. Different organisations have different ways of creating the debtors' days outstanding, but they could be modified. So I've used some buttons here to show the information here at different levels. So I can go down through here and see down to the detail level, and as you can see, the last end result is a pivot table, so I can go down right to the document number and see all the transactions against that document number. So I can see originally this particular invoice was $7,760, and I've received payments all the way along for $160, and its current value is $1,660. And I can see that at particular points. So you can see there I've gone 1 month further, and I've got that debtors trial balance working through as a equivalent historical age trial balance, pulling on the information that's come through the general ledger as opposed to the debtors ledgers. Now, while we're working here within the debtors area, I'm going to show you a couple of other features from the toolbar above. So one of the things we have here is the share session. So you're joining us today via a GoToWebinar. Click built in has the ability to run its own sharing of sessions, so I can go through that and I can start sharing that session. and I can send that out as an email or copy the link. And what that does, as I email that out to people, they join the meeting, they're using my license of ClickView. So you know, I could be sending it out to the sales reps. They might not have any ability to come in to look at ClickView. They might have no licenses, but they can share my license. And they can interact here as well. So everything I can do once they join the session, they can do as well. So they can select on things, and you know, I might be speaking to one of the sales reps here, and we say, well, we're looking at the top 3 debtors here as far as debtors days. Or let's say that's the top one, because I just selected one. And we're looking at that. So I might be speaking to the sales guy and saying, well, you know, why is this so bad? And we can actually communicate. The salesperson could actually right-click on here and add a note. So I can go in here and say, poor debtors days due to refinancing, and I can put lots more text in here. I can also take a snapshot and save that. And I'll show you what that snapshot does. Because what I can do here is I can hit the clear button. I can say, I know I've not got notes on here. So let's see all the notes. So I can see there's 2 notes here on that, and here's the notes. So I select that note, and if I select on the camera icon, what that will do is it will go back to how that dashboard was looking when that note was made. So we can look at those comments, we can add more comments to it, or we could delete those comments if we want. So that's a very powerful way of interacting with people and getting feedback and recording that information for prosperity and coming back to that. Posterity was what I was looking for. So I'm going to click on Amy's Kitchen again. So I go back to that. You can see across here I've put an information button. So basically that button there allows me to, if I just move my go-to meeting, click on that. Oops. I'll do one here. There we go, I put some notes on this page. I've put some notes here. So that could be some information that we just to tell people that, you know, some hints on the window. We can actually utilize those to show and hide other information, such as there might be a load of different selection criteria that we actually want to come up, and which is something we do quite often, so that we have those selection criteria come up over the top and then hide that information. As I said, if I was going to select the information, say, on the vendors analysis, so I am starting to now jump around a bit faster, which is what you do in ClickView. So if I look at those two top suppliers here, and I go back to my trial balance, I can see my trial balance and see a pivot table of areas, pull that across, pivot that information around, type, for example, collapse all, expand all, and the like within here. So very quickly see where that goes down to, right to the description that's come through from the general ledger. And what I'm going to also show here is how we can very quickly send that information out to Excel. So click OK, and voila, that information comes out to Excel. We can put areas on there to print that, so that would print from this particular area. That would just print that particular object, and we can put some sort of headings and the like on there, or we can design reports within ClickView. As if you see down here, I haven't designed any reports, but those reports are basically just a little report writer that you drag and drop items onto there, and basically when you select the report and print it, you can print it off to PDF or printer or file, that will take the selection criteria that you've actually got here. And then on top of that, if you want to even go further, there are more comprehensive reporting tools that allow you to email them out, run on a scheduled basis. And for example, if you had reports going out to various different department heads, you would be able to schedule those to go out to the department heads, and they would reduce down the data. So by one automated process, you might send out 50 different versions of the same report. Now, the designer tool is a different object, a different application that allows you to design this, but within the front end itself, if you so wish, you can add objects. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another tab. So what this is doing, it's adding a tab for me on the server, and just for me. I can go in here and I can add a sheet object, and I'm just going to grab a bar chart. Now, for developing this, it's a bit slower in the front end, so it actually purposely slows it down for the user. And what we've done, anybody who might know the back end of Dynamics GP, they're quite awful names of fields to remember. So what I can go here in that field, and I can replace that with a field that I've now called native amount. So we've tried to give simple English names to the items that are in there, and if I then put that over month and apply that. Okay, which I've got so no data on there, I'm going to remove that. Delete that select one, just put a bar on there. I'm going to go too far into that. Into the properties, I can also, if I want to, I can share that with other people, or I can keep it to myself. So that uses Active Directory on, so I can see the list of people who have access. So I can't go through here and share that with people who don't have security to the actual application itself. So I can't go in here and give access to the application to somebody who within the organization who isn't allowed to see this application. And while we're talking about security, not only does the security give you application access to the application itself, that security can be on any field within the model. So we wouldn't tie the security down to as it is in Dynamics GP, because that's quite a limited security. We can tie that down to various different departments. You can have different people having different access to different tabs, and you could, so any bit of information that is in the model, areas, so you might have people that are allowed to see detailed information for all the accounts. I have one particular client who posts through to the general ledger salaries accounts full details of the salaries and FBT items that are by employee name. And so basically only one or two people in the organisation can come through and expand down on the salaries account, but they can have a look at, but everybody else can have a look at all other general ledger accounts. Now that security is via Active Directory, so you are identified when you log on as to who you are, and you only see what you're allowed to see. So as you open up the app, if I'm a sales rep or a manager for the Bathurst branch, and that's all I'm allowed to see, if I go back to here, or if I'm a manager for, say, COO or shared services, when I logged on, all I would see is the word shared service. I wouldn't know any other cost centres actually exist, and that flows all the way through the model. So if I select shared services, for example, I would only see these projects. Any of those other projects that are not associated, I wouldn't see the projects, I wouldn't see the cost centres, anything. So basically it is giving the person a view of what they're allowed to see and only what they're allowed to see. So this is a really quick introduction into the finance area of Smart Insights. You know, I always like to say it's just the beginning for giving exposure over your business, and as a tool, it's not limited to just data coming out from GP. It can be very many other sources, and it's certainly a very powerful tool. So that's my quick run through, and I'd like to sort of hand back to Michael now, if I could.
Thank you, Graham. That was excellent. And look, I know personally that there's a significant amount of time going into connecting GP into ClickView in that way, using the Insights tool that's been able to present that data that way. In particular, I like the ability there, just to highlight that again, the ability there not only to present that data in a way that probably looks different to anything we've previously seen with FRX and Management Reporter, but you could also drill back down through to the transaction details, which is also stored there, and you can see that as well in ClickView. So that was great to see. So we do have some questions that have come through. So in the next few minutes, we'd just like to hit those questions if we can. So I'll be asking the questions, and Graham, hopefully you'll be able to answer those questions for us. So there was one just come through here. The first question came through. Someone with a very keen eye. They saw the job cost .qvw file. So the question is that based on Wensoft job cost? So that's a very specific question there. And a keen eye on the viewer that saw that one.
Yes, congratulations. Yes, the Wensoft job cost is certainly an area that we cover. It's less an out-of-the-box side of things because Wensoft is a highly customized product in itself, and so it requires a little bit more consulting to pull that together. Everyone's view on how they use Wensoft is differently, and I've certainly been saying over the years that anybody who's got Wensoft should be a prime candidate for getting more out of their system utilising ClickView and Click Insights, the GP Smart Insights. Years ago, I actually did one for a Wensoft site where we actually tied it back and utilised it to reconcile back to the general ledger. We were able to show very quickly how we were able to pull information out and get them out of a little bit of a mess. So yep, definitely it's there.
Definitely can get that when soft data in there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a two-part question here. I'll ask them as one question, but obviously there's two pieces there. So is this a web-based application? And the second part is, do we need to set up a new database?
Right. Yes, it is a web-based application, so it sits in memory. So part of the speed, both in development and actually displaying the data, is it's loaded on the server in memory, so you access it through the web portal. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Oh, sorry, I probably shouldn't have treated you like that and asked them the two questions. So the second question is, do we need to set up a new database? So I'm assuming that means a new GP database.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yes. So what ClickView does is it pulls through the data directly from the GP tables or Excel and the like, pulls them down to the server, and what we do is we do that in a two-staged process. So we're not doing lots of manipulation across the network. So what it does is it pulls down a copy on the data, all in ClickView QVD files, which are very fast. You know, you can load. So I'm working on sites at the moment with 20, 30, up to 50 million records, which we're loading in 2 or 3 minutes. So what we do is pull that data very quickly across to the ClickView server, and then we use the ClickView data files that it creates to do the manipulation. So things that we do, like so within Dynamics GP, you obviously have all your transactions, and on the screen it shows it as a monthly balance. What we do is in the finance side of things is we create an opening balance, a monthly movement, and a closing balance. So if you were selecting May 2015, you can say build up a cash flow, sort of say opening balance for this account, monthly movement for this one, closing balance for that. So so it's nice and easy to sort of drag those on. So we've taken that, we do the manipulations, give them more plain English names, and you know, do that on the ClickView server itself.
Excellent, thank you, Graham. So just got time for one more question, and it's a bit of a technical one, but I'm sure it's a shorter answer. So, how often does the data update?
We always get that question. So it can update as often as you like. It can also be run on demand. I always say to people when I get asked this that you will come back in a few months' time and you will say that question was irrelevant because I'm now saving myself so much time that you know, hourly refreshes, I'm saving so much time elsewhere and getting so much insight into my business that I'm happy with it. But obviously at the end of the month, you want to run that on demand. It's just a video play button. You press the play and off runs the job and it reloads.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And look, we've just got one more quick one that has just come through. Is it suitable for all versions of Dynamics GP?
Yes, well, I've been using Dynamics GP since 1992, to give away my age, and most of the tables that we hit haven't actually changed since that time. I think what Microsoft do is just add functionality and the like, but the base tables are certainly the same for all the versions of GP out there.
Excellent. Thanks, Graham. All right. Well, look, just to wrap up, and firstly, thanks, Graham, for presenting and also handling those questions on the fly there right at the end. Really appreciate it. So, just in finishing, and before we actually exit, I did promise that there would be an offer for the attendees today on the webinar. So, I just wanted to quickly let you know what that was. So, we are offering on the SmarthInsight tool a 50% discount plus a 1-hour free discovery session. So for anyone that came along and saw the presentation today, the next step in terms of connecting and engaging with us would be to do that discovery session, and we're actually going to offer that for free. So that's a 1-hour session, and we can do that remotely. We can do that over the phone with you. We can do that for free. And following that, for anyone that does commit and purchase before the 31st of January or by the 31st of January next year, we are offering a 50% discount on the SmarthInsight cost. Now, that's usually $4,500 for the SmarthInsight tool, so that'll be 50% off the $4,500. So that's a pretty nice saving there just on that SmarthInsight piece. So in finishing, just like to again thank everyone for their attendance today. I'm sure, and I hope you did, but I'm sure you saw something that was different to what you've previously seen with getting data from GP into a dashboard tool. Thank you, Graham, for presenting for us today. And as you exit the webinar, there is a little survey that will pop up where you can just answer a couple of questions there and take advantage of your interest in that offer that we just presented. So thanks, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of your day.